students, we are moving to section C of this paper, that is fiction. So let's move on to the first novel, that is The French Lieutenant's Woman by John Fowles. So let's have an introduction. So the story tracks the relationship between a woman caught between the Victorian and modern ages and a man drawn to her. So let's see about the author. John Fowles was born on March 31, 1926 in a suburb of London. So his first published novel, The Collector, 1963, however, was a popular and critically acclaimed one. So his third novel, The French Lieutenant's Woman, was published in 1969. So let's have a summary and analysis of the novel. So chapters 1 to 33. The narrator opens The French Lieutenant's Women with a background information on line reaches where the story is initially set. He then introduces Charles Smithson, a 32-year-old gentleman, and his young fiancée Ernestina Freeman, who are taking a walk along the Cobb. So the action begins in 1867, but the narrator often breaks into the narrative, noting that the story is being related in the 20th century. So Charles and Tina's walk is interrupted by the presence of a woman in a dark cape standing alone at the end of the Cobb, staring out to the sea. So Tina explains to Charles what she has heard about the woman known as tragedy and the French Lieutenant's Women and her status as a social outcast. So rumors suggest that Sarah Woodruff, so the name of the French Lieutenant's woman is Sarah Woodruff. So she was seduced and abandoned by a French naval officer who was shipwrecked off the coast. As she nursed him back to health, he reportedly made promises to her that he did not fulfill. So, destitute and rejected by most of the Lyme Regis society, Sarah is taken in by the pious Mrs. Pulteney, who plans to save the young woman. So the next day, Charles, whose hobby is paleontology, walks through the undercliff in searching for fossils. So while Tina visits her aunt Tranter during his walk, Charles comes across Sarah sleeping in a clearing. She awakes with a start, and after apologizing for disturbing her, Charles departs. So the narrator notes Charles's growing obsession with a mysterious lady. So after stopping at a farmhouse to refresh himself, Charles again sees Sarah on the path. She rejects his offer to escort her home and implores him to tell no one that she has been walking, an activity that Mrs. Poltony has forbidden her. So during another walk, Sarah finds Charles and presents him with two fossils and begs him to hear her story. Sarah agrees that Lieutenant Wargins proposed marriage and seduced her. So that evening, Charles discovers that he is in danger of losing his inheritance and title, that causes tensions with Tina. So, students, we are moving to see the summary of chapter 34 to 54. So here, Sarah moves to Exeter aided by money Charles has given her. So Charles tries to direct his thoughts to his engagement with Tina, but feels as if he is being trapped by her father, who wants him to become his business partner. So he is tempted to go to Sarah in Exeter, but instead returns to Tina. So the narrator here provides the first of the three endings. So here Charles and Tina marry with Sam and Mary, and both couples prosper. However, the narrator insists that this ending is something that only what has taken place in Charles's imagination. So we could see two couples here, that is, one is Charles and Tina, the other one is Sam and Mary. So Charles do in fact go to Exeter to see Sarah. So Charles discovers that she had not been intimate with a French lieutenant. So after breaking off his engagement with Tina, the next day Charles returns to Exeter but finds that Sarah has disappeared. So we are moving to chapter 55 till the end. So Charles has private investigators to find Sarah. So Sam and Mary spots Sarah in London and notifies Charles. So Sarah greets Charles and explains to him that she has been working as a painter's model and the secretary. Charles is shocked at how easily Sarah has fit into the scandalous pre-Raphaelite group. So after Sarah insists that she will never marry him, so Charles prepares to leave. So when Sarah introduces him their daughter Lilich, however, the three have a face-to-face appearance. So the narrator then reappears, sets his watch back 15 minutes and provides the last conclusion to the story. That is, Sarah reasserts her decision not to marry but suggests the two might remain friends and lovers. So Charles rejects her offer and leaves devastated and alone. So here ends the most famous and I would like to call the most complicated novel, The French Lieutenant's Woman. So whenever we read a novel, we often find a single ending to the novel, or otherwise the author may provide the freedom to the reader to have his or her own ending. But here the author provides three probable or three possible endings, and the reader can choose one from the three according to his or her wishes or his or her desire. So this is all about. So let's have a quick look into some of the themes of this novel. So two important themes occur in this novel. The first one being social constraints and the other is freedom. So this is all about this novel. Okay then. So students, we are moving to the next work, that is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. So let's see a short biography of Ishiguro. So Ishiguro's third novel, The Remains of the Day, won the 1889 Booker Prize. So the book is in effect a character study of Stevens, an aging butler who has spent 30 years in service at Darlington Hall. So as he considers his past, he is forced to come to terms with the gravity of the sacrifices he has made in the name of duty. So this is a brief about the novel. So let's see a short biography about the author. So Kazuo Ishiguro was born in Nagasaki, Japan on November 8, 1954. So Ishiguro's novel deal with self-deception, regret and personal reflection. So let's see, or let's move on to the plot of the novel. So The Remains of the Day is told in the first person narration of an English butler named Stevens. In July 1956, Stevens decided to take a 6-day road trip to the West Country of England. So this is all like what Stephen is going to write about his trips, all those things. So region to the west of Darlington Hall. So the house in which Stevens resides and has worked as a butler for 34 years. Though the house was previously owned by the new deceased Lord Darlington, by 1956 it has come under the ownership of Mr. Faraday, an American gentleman. So Stevens likes Mr. Faraday but fails to interact well with him socially. So we all know that in history we already have studied. In those days, it was the houses were owned by lords, their previous generations, their upcoming generation, their heirs likewise. So it was previously owned by Lord Darlington. Now as he is deceased, now it's owned by Faraday. So Stevens is a serious person and is not comfortable joking around in the manner Mr. Faraday prefers. So we all know that some people have the character of joking all around, and they see life or they accept life as a very beautiful and silly one, whereas some other people For them, everything is so much serious in nature. So here also we could see such two characters. So the purpose of Stephen's road trip is to visit Miss Kenton, the former housekeeper of Darlington Hall, who left 20 years earlier to get married. So now Stevens has received a letter from Miss Kenton, and he believes that her letter hints that her marriage is failing and she might like to return to her past post as housekeeper. So much of the narrative is comprised of Stephen's memories of his work as a butler during and just after World War II. So in this novel also we can see those elements of World War II directly or indirectly. During the trip, Stevens also recounts stories of his contemporary butlers in other houses with whom he struck up friendship. So Stevens' most notable relationship by far, however, is his long-term working relationship with Miss Kenton. So though he never says so outright it to her, it appears that he, however, repressed romantic feelings for Miss Kenton. Despite the fact the two frequently disagrees over various household affairs when they work together, but the disagreements are childish in nature and mainly serve to illustrate the fact that the two care for each other. So at the end of the novel, Miss Kenton admits to Stevens that her life may have turned out better if she had married him. So this moment or this dialogue is something special to not each and everyone but some of our lives, because in films as well as in real life we have seen someone telling to us the truth or the fact that if I had married you, it will be like this. Sometimes it may be negative or sometimes it may be so much positive. So here Stevens and Miss Kenton part, and Stevens return to Darlington Hall, and here he resolves to perfect the art to please his new emperor. So this is all about the plot of the novel. So let me quote an important writer. So as Salman Rushdie comments, let me quote, "The remains of the day is a story both beautiful as well cruel." So when you read the plot or the story in general, one could see those elements which are so beautiful in life as well those elements which are cruel. So this is all about this novel. Okay then. So students, we are moving to the next work, that is Lucky Gem by Kingsley Amis. So let's have a short biography of Kingsley Amis. So Amis was born on 16th April 1922 in London. He was a well-known novelist, poet, critic and a teacher. So he belonged to a literary movement called Angry Young Man. So he is best known for satirical comedies such as Lucky Jim 1954, One Fat Englishman, Ending Up, etc. So he is also called the finest English comic novelist of the second half of the 20th century. So let's have a brief about the plot of the novel. So Jim Dixon, the protagonist of the novel, works as a teacher of history at English Provisional University. So, beginning itself, he makes a bad impression to his colleagues. So, he manages to injure the professor of English coming out of the library. Dixon sees a small round pebble lying on the sidewalk and he kicks up it, and it on its way meets the knee of a professor. He was so much afraid in one sense or indifferent in the other to apologize. It should be said that colleagues make on Dixon not the best impression, well, but there is nothing to do. So here we could see the character sketch of Dixon, the professor of history. So we all in our day-to-day life also we must have come across characters or personalities such as Dixon. So let's continue. Once, Wedge invites Dixon to join him for the weekend and help him organizing a musical evening and gives him the task for preparing for the end of the semester a lecture on good old England. So, besides inviting to the evening, he also gives him the task for preparing a lecture. So, in Vetch's house, Dixon meets Margaret, who also teaches at the university. So, 3 weeks ago, she tried to commit suicide. So, because of a failed love affair. So, this lady this teacher who teaches in the same university, she committed or she tried to commit suicide in because of a failed love affair. This is also something a natural event which takes place in day-to-day life for almost all the people. So let's continue. So in the musical evening, there also comes professor's son Bertrand, accompanied by Christina Kelgen, a niece of certain Julius Gore, who Bertrand hopes to work with. So, as the second time Dixon meets Christina is at the summer ball for at the university where he came together with Margaret. So Dixon sees Christina and asks her to leave with him. When they drove to the Vetch's home where she is, then Dixon admits he is in love with her. So after a few events, Christina tells Jim that they must not see each other again because she is bound with Bertard. So that day, Dixon had to read his lecture. He drinks in the morning have a dozen of whiskey. So this is something particular to literature, film, so and so. When men folk are frustrated or when they are despair in their life, they go on drinking. This is what happens here also. So uh, it does not work for him to read the lecture again. Bill Atkinson is waiting to inform Dixon that he had a telephone conversation with Christina and she needs to say Dixon something very important. So he rushes to the train station where she informs him that she broke up with Bertard. It turns out that Bertard continues to meet with his long gone mistress. So Dixon tells her that he will now be working for her uncle and is ready to go after Christina to London. So Amina, this is the climax of the novel. So Amina, young people proudly pass by. So this is when we read this novel, we feel as if we are watching a movie. So the climax is something which we all hope for. This is not a destructive climax, but a very happy ending. That's what happens in this novel. So that's all about this novel. Okay then. So students, we are moving to the last work of section C as well this paper. So the work is The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner by Alan Celito. So Alan Celito was an English writer and one among the so-called angry young men in the 1950s. So this short story by Celito was published in 1959 as part of a short story collection with the same title. So the work focuses on Smith, a poor Nottingham teenager from a dismal home in a working class area who has bleak prospects in life and few interests beyond petty crime. So the boy experiences social alienation and turns to long distance running as a method of both emotional and physical escape from his situation. So let's have a look on to the plot of the story. Smith is the protagonist of this story, was caught by the police for robbing a bakery. Smith is sentenced to be confined in Roxton Towers in Essex, a Bristol for young boy offenders institution for delinquent youngsters. So he seeks solace in long distance running, so attracting the notice of the school's authorities for his physical prowess. So here the young boy or the teenager Smith, he has taken long distance running as a form of escapism. So here the writer Celito uses long distance running as a metaphor to escape from the harsh realities of life. So let's continue. Smith is offered a light workload for his last 6 months at Roxton Towers. So if he wins in an important cross-country competition against prestigious public school for Roxton Towers to win the race would be a major public relations boost for the Borstel administrators. So, however, when the day of the race arrived, Smith throws victory away after speeding ahead of the other runners. He deliberately stops a few meters short of the finishing line, though well ahead and easily able to win. So he lets the other runners pass him and cross the finishing line, thereby losing the race in a deviant gesture aimed against his Roxton Towers administrators. By deliberately losing the race, Smith demonstrates his free spirit and independence. So, this is all about this story. So, the main theme that occurs in this story is that of rebellion and isolation. So, here the writer seems to take running as a metaphor to escape from the realities of life. In life, we could see some people choose from different qualities like painting, reading, writing, so and so. Likewise, here running can be taken as a metaphor to escape from the realities of life in one way and also to win uh, the different facets of life. So this is all about this short story. So this is end of section C as well as this paper. So I hope you all will do better in this paper and wish all of you a better and very good reading experience. Okay.